It's an interesting conversation. And before I go any further, let me be so clear, because TikTokers never get it. I'm inviting you into a dialogue. I am not telling you that one way is right and the other way is wrong. So this comment about a culture should not be forced. If you want to learn, good for you. But if you live in the country, eventually the culture will grow on you, is in response to the fact that to become a US citizen, you have to take a test to prove that you know certain basic things about the politics and history of the country. And in Portugal, there is no such test. And because we have to cover all bases on TikTok, yes, I know there is a language test, but it has nothing to do with culture. So should you have to learn? Now, the US test, I've talked to people who have taken it, and they know things about the government, the military, and the history of the US that I don't know. And they learn those things for the test. So arguably that doesn't make sense, because if I, as somebody who went through the school system in the US, and to be fair, was not the best student, I don't memorize things very well, so maybe I was taught it at some point, I just don't remember. But if I don't know it, why should they know it? Or rather, why should they have to know it? A question, not a judgment one way or the other. Now, the second part of this, I would strongly disagree with. Related, the word ghetto, which is a fascinating word, which I recommend you go and look up the history of, because it has a long history and it has a lot to do with immigration, specifically Jewish immigration. But there were historically plenty of people in the US, and this is still true, plenty of people who live in immigrant communities with people from the culture or the countries or the languages where they came from. And they live in those communities and they never leave them, and they never assimilate to the country where they immigrated to. Again, not a judgment one way or the other, but it is a disagreement with the fact that eventually a culture will just grow on you. I don't think that's always true. Now you can see that in gated communities, basically rich expat ghettos. They do definitely exist here in Portugal, but they create more of a divide in places like Saudi Arabia or even Vietnam, where I lived. These places where the people inside of those gated communities have such an incredibly different lifestyle than the people outside of them. And again, the culture is never going to grow on those people. They are always going to speak their home languages. They're going to surround themselves with people from their home countries. They're going to eat their home cuisines, and they are never going to assimilate. So then this all goes back to the question, should people be required to learn anything about the country that they're going to become a citizen of before they become a citizen? Personally, I'm a piss poor test taker. Like, if you made me memorize things about Portugal, I would memorize them to pass the test, and then I would forget them because dates and names mean so little to me. But I will learn so much about the culture by just being here. But that's me. Not everybody's like me. So once more, I do not have an answer. I am not telling you I do. I am not telling you that I think one way is right or the other way is wrong. This is how I think. I think through things. I think it's fascinating to think about. Is there a right way or a wrong way? And I invite you to join this conversation.